We will resume our budget study session.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Carlett. We're back, and I think I'm kind of heading toward the home stretch here. The last significant area we have to speak to, and certainly last but not least, right, is our economic development area, and obviously one of the top priorities of the City Council. And we have in the Economic Development Services Department now, as we've reorganized, I mentioned we took the permitting functions out and put those in the engineering department. So we have, in terms of the department personnel, left 8 people that are dedicated to that within the department. There are a number of people dedicated to economic development outside of the department, and I'll mention a few of those. Within that budget, we have about $8.4 million in our economic development program. And as the screen shot here shows now, this is focused on diversifying the local economy, following the top priority that the City Council has in economic development is bringing targeted high-wage jobs to the community following our economic development implementation strategy. We have business retention and expansion as a high priority, and real estate development and redevelopment in the targeted investment zones. And this, of course, includes the concept of creating shovel-ready sites that we talked about at your workshop at some length. And also making sure that we're creating the development opportunities to create that workforce of the future and the high-wage jobs that I mentioned. So we have the business performance metrics there of attracting the locates, and you hear us talk about that quite frequently in our work with the Greater Phoenix Economic Council and other site developers that we work with, and particularly to bring that to those targeted zones. Now, in this budget, what we've done is recommend several employees that go beyond just the Department of Economic Development. We have some within the department. We're adding 1 new FTE to the department, and we're adding some consulting dollars so that Director White has an opportunity to bring on specialty expertise at any point that he needs it throughout the year ahead. He won't have to come back for a budget adjustment. He'll have some money that he can access, and we'll put some consultants on retainer so we can get them on board quickly, because time is often of the essence, as you know, as we are trying to attract these investors to the community. We also have put some dollars in this budget for marketing and advertising, so we'll be bringing some additional resources on by contract to enhance our marketing efforts in the area of promoting the city to those potential investors and in target parts of the country and the world where we see the potential for some bang for the buck, you might say, for that kind of advertising. As we mentioned in some of the other budgets, we also are bringing in a person into our communications office that it will be focused on economic development, and that individual will also have with them and into that department some additional consulting money that will be working in support of this program as well, and enhancing the marketing and advertising within the Economic Development Department. Additionally, we have a planner in our Planning Community Development Department that will be doing the land use entitlement work to create those marketable sites. Because as you know, it's not just marketing, but it's putting those sites together. It's making sure that the underlying zoning and entitlement are in place so that we can compete for the investment opportunities when they come up. And lastly, we have an applications analyst that will be helping assure that we have the focus on our permitting and our customer service to make all of these different systems work in a consistent fashion. So this is how we are responding to the top priority that the council has, and I think this gets us a good boost in terms of our capacity to meet your objective in this arena. So with that, I'll turn it over to Katie. Maybe I've already given her her whole spiel on this
you
one. I'm
did
kind
so
of excited about this. You know, it's fun to have an opportunity to really be able to put some resources behind our economic development program. So, sorry, Katie.
That's okay, although you're not
You
quite
talked
done
longer
yet.
on rates, you know, than I did, so.
There you go, there you go.
Right.
I wanted to just take a few moments too, because one of the things that I think is really important is to talk a little bit with this council about the half-cent sales tax fund in relationship to our economic development efforts. So we have a very robust economic development strategy, as you all know, and Scott, he uses all the best words and puts it together so nicely for us that I'm not even going to attempt to try to repeat some of that. But what I wanted to kind of bring out to this group is that it's a very dynamic process when you talk about economic development projects. So from a project perspective, we've been talking about, I think at the bottom of the screen there on that other screen, you can see that's just a sampling of some of the things that Scott and his staff have been able to bring forward to the city over the last couple of, probably the last 4 or 5 years. And so with that comes, you don't have a similar sort of program or plan like you do with, say, our capital improvement program, right? So we don't necessarily know what the projects are, but we know they're out there and we know they're big, right? So, and that's what we're going after through those targeted industries and all of those types of things. So one of the primary funding sources for a lot of those projects is our half-cent sales tax fund. And we've taken a concerted effort over the last probably 4 or 5 years, to really focus available dollars in our half-cent sales fund towards economic development efforts and in support of the work that Scott and his staff are doing and the rest of the city is trying to do in economic development. Now, when we talk about the half-cent sales tax fund, however, you want to also understand what your policy says. And your policy says that the half-cent sales tax fund can be used for a number of different things. As council has provided some direction to us, we've focused that on economic development going forward, but it also supports, just so you're aware, things like some public safety and our radio communication system. The sports complex is funded through our half-cent sales tax fund. It's the source that we use when we have development agreements and we're doing sales tax agreements. Those are also supported through the half-cent sales tax fund. And it pays the debt service on a couple of things, including the theater, as well as the clubhouse renovations and sports complex improvements that we've recently done. And then key to that, again, is the development, the economic development implementation strategy and how we can bring resources or have resources when Scott's bringing things forward and have the ability to fund some of those. So we have that capacity within the half-cent sales fund to do many things. We may not be able to do all the things that Scott brings forward. So, but on those one-time sort of things that come through that we've seen, some things similar to like Maxwell and Trine and things like that, we have some capacity to be able to do those. When we start talking about much bigger projects, such as the parking structure up at with the Peoria Sports Park, that commits a significant amount on an ongoing basis to pay for the cost of that over a 20-year period. Similar things of that nature, we're going to continue to see pressure on that fund to have to support if you're going to do things that really require that long ongoing requirement. So I just wanted to kind of give you a general overview of that and if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. Again, per council's direction, we're really focusing all of any available funding towards economic development and the goals that you have as a council in support of what Scott's working on.
Yeah, and we will have in study sessions or possibly one of your seminars in the not-too-distant future, the presentations on that economic development implementation strategy update that's underway. And Scott's been working with the consultants and the Economic Development Advisory Board on that, and so that will be ready to be presented to you soon. And out of that, depending on the success we've had with some of these projects, at some point we may need to get in and do some prioritization of that existing budget, as Katie mentions. But at this point, we don't have enough information. They're not mature enough, so to speak, for us to be recommending that at this point.
And just as another item, I think Scott has on his work plan to bring forward a number of updates on a number of projects over the next couple of months. I think next week, we're going to be hearing about BioInspire and some of the things that are going on out there. So I think those are important items for this council to really listen to and consider those investments and what we're doing with those investments. And again, realizing that really this is the source that we go to fund a lot of those things that Scott's going to be bringing forward over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and just, I guess, one more comment on that. As you know, some of the agreements we have now are a couple of years old, and we will be coming back and amending those agreements and updating them for changed market conditions. And that's normal in projects like that, where, you know, we have a sense of the market when we create the agreement with the investor. As time goes on, we become more certain or more clear about some of those market conditions, and we amend the agreements correspondingly.
Any questions?
Questions?
Any questions for Scott? He's here.
Council?
On the half-cent sales tax?
Or just on economic development?
No.
Okay. Wow.
Easy night.
You're
Very
going to
good.
hear a lot from him next week and in
Right.
the coming weeks. So, yeah,
Yeah, that was your clearest presentation ever, Scott. So.
exactly. So, I want to first congratulate you on getting through the big laundry list of items that we had on our agenda, and wanted to kind of grab for you what we have heard from you over the last 2 nights about some of the follow-up items that you might, that you would like staff to work on. On here, you can, I don't know if you want to go through these, Carl, or if you want me to go through them.
I can do that.
We just added the ones from tonight, so hopefully those.
Yeah, we've been keeping
reflected.
track, as we do every year, on the different items that you bring up in the course of the conversations. And so just thinking back on the discussion we had the other night, we talked about our emergency medical service and our certificate of necessity for ambulance service and our paramedic service, and we committed in that conversation to come back to a lengthier discussion in a seminar with at the timing that the mayor might set out, and I think that'll be pretty soon. We say mid-year there, but I think we're not talking about that in terms of the schedule. That's more the potential for a mid-year adjustment. The second item was the community meeting space. The question with respect to whether or not there's community meeting space adequate for some of the meetings that I know our council's interested in the public safety training facility at Pinnacle Peak. So we'll be getting back with you on that and making sure that we have ample space in that project for public meetings in that part of the community. We had a question regarding the self-certification program, and the comment was to continue to evaluate that program. That's the permitting, one of those process improvement permitting pieces that we put in place last year, and some continued evaluation as to the use of that particular mechanism. We also had a comment about when we get into phase 3 of P83 improvements, that we make sure that we incorporate a number of public meetings into that project, and we made note of that as well. In the capital improvement program, Andy talked about the intersection improvements at 75th and Thunderbird, and also Peoria, I believe. And
Cactus.
Councilmember Finn mentioned some concern about the impact on businesses, and we will take that to heart, and we'll work to make sure that our improvements are done in a way to minimize the impact on businesses, and we'll get back with you regarding the way forward in terms of protecting our businesses in that area from the impacts of development. The Northern Community Park land evaluation, we talked about, and this sometimes is referred to as Community Park number 3 in the northern part of the city, and the crying need that citizens in that part of the city have for these facilities, and doing everything that we can to accelerate that. And Andy Granger committed to moving that forward as fast as possible and bringing an update after the summer break. So that would either be at the August meeting, latter part of August, or the first meeting in September. So we'll get that up quickly. We had, let's see, the Grand Avenue funding Oh, this is, yeah, we've already changed the name of it, right? We think about the Grand Avenue Coalition, and we're changing the name of that to better reflect the potential multimodal use of that money rather than simply its focus on commuter rail. And we had some questions tonight regarding the pavement management system and comment and commitment to get back and talk about how we might accelerate some of the pavement management programs within our Public Works Department and potentially identify some longer-term funding sources for that. And then also within our capital improvement program, some concern about the impact of Northern Avenue, Northern Parkway, and Andy Granger committed to bring back updates to the council regarding the community meetings and the meetings he's been having with the other stakeholders in that project and update the council on that. There was a comment with respect to the shade structure at Park Ridge Park, that it was in need of taking the old one down or looking at that, and John Sefton committed to do that, so we'll follow up with that quickly. Councilmember Hunt mentioned the trees along Monroe, and we'll be following up on that, looking into that and seeing what we can do to add some trees there. We are going to come back in a council workshop or seminar regarding special events, the status of the special events projects, and talking through any potential changes that the council wants to make to our special events going forward. And also Vice Mayor Edwards mentioned some concern about needing additional funds for Fletcher Heights North Community Park, and we committed to, after the assessment is done, coming back to council and talking about how we would make sure that that park is put in a fashion that's to the council's liking. So those were the items that we had noted in our list. We put this together after last meeting and at the break, just now from this meeting. I'd also mention there's one other item that we have committed to follow up on, and that is an additional, potentially additional half-time position for our human services function. You talked about this at the workshop, and we have not had an opportunity to put that in this budget, but we have committed to look at that program and bring that back in a mid-year budget adjustment if the need exists for that additional half-time position. I make that commitment to you that we will do that. And unless we missed something, that was the list that the staff had.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt.
By way of summary, how many total FTEs did we add, and how many half-time or part-time?
Including total FTEs.
I think the total FTE count, all funds, not just general fund, but all funds was 22.75.
Okay, so those are going to be added to city staff.
Yes, and that also accounted for some combinations of half-times turning
Okay.
into full-times and
That morphing.
some combined positions and all that. That wasn't 22 all-new
Additional bodies.
positions, right? And grant-funded positions as
Right,
well.
so we have some revenue offset on a number of those positions associated with either grants, as we talked about, the 6 firefighters, or the some positions in community services, as well as some revenue offsets related to like the youth team coordinator with program revenue and things like that. So not all those positions are direct impacts to the bottom line. They're going to be recovered through some revenues.
No, I was thinking more of the positive aspect
Oh.
on the city, because, it's been tough the last few years, and maybe you haven't let a lot of people go, but you haven't been able to add a lot of people either. And I know the departments have been working with skeletal crews in a lot of areas, and so this is nice. This should allow a lot more breathing room, shall we say, for some of our staff.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Hunt. We appreciate that. And since the economic downturn where we shed a lot of positions, we have not brought those positions back in most cases. And so we reorganized and we restructured and created some different efficiencies and different ways of doing things. These kind of get our highest level needs right now in providing the services to our citizens. So thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Patana.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we're wrapping this up, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, kind of aligning myself with Councilmember Finn's comments earlier, that This budget process to me was really very interesting. You guys made it painless and bearable. Budgets can sometimes tend to be very dry, and yet I got all the information that I needed regarding the 2016 budget. What amazed me is the knowledge and the level of expertise that our staff brought. It's really, to me, was quite amazing. I sat on that side of the table for a lot of years making presentations to council, and I always tried to anticipate what council would ask, and I never succeeded at that. Yeah, it's much easier on this side of the table, I assure you that. So, you know, the police chief, the fire chief, Andy Granger, Bill Mattingly, John Imig, John Sefton, Chris Hawkes, all did an exceptional job fielding all of our questions. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate your efforts. This was a great exercise. And to the budget staff, just by the sheer volume of this book, you guys do an amazing job, and you should be congratulated. Katie, I don't know how you keep all this stuff swimming around in your head, but I want you to know something. I am sure not you. So thank you for all your efforts, everybody.
Thank you, Councilmember
And
Patano. We
so-
really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just have to echo that. It's amazing, it's astonishing. I mean, this is an 1,100-page or more budget book for an entire, year to run an entire city. And you were able to present it with so much professionalism. You answered all of our questions, and you did anticipate what questions we might ask and answered those even in advance of us asking them. So I not only appreciate you putting together such a great budget for our citizens, but for presenting it to us in a way that was easily comprehended by us and the people that are watching. And I hope everyone is watching, because I want you to know that this is a balanced budget. Your city has a balanced budget every single year, and this is no exception. So all of the core services will be delivered as efficiently and as effectively as possible, and it is balanced. Nobody's going into any kind of tricks with our finances. There's no sleight of hand here. It's all easy to see and transparent, and I hope that all of our citizens realize what a tremendous job our city does. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay?
So just to let you know, kind of the formal process is that we will bring back a tentative budget, which of course sets our maximum appropriation, and our CIP adoption on 6/2. The final budget adoption will be held on 6/16, so it's a little later this year, and our property tax adoption will be on July 7th. And that is a typo, so after all those accolades, there's a typo in your book. It actually, on the schedule, it's 7/7 is when we come back and do the property tax adoption.
It does say that. 7/7.
7/7.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Any further comments?
No, and I'd just like to thank you, Mayor and Council, for your hard work, and I know you've gone through this book in great detail, and thank you for the questions and the comments off the table. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.